the left and the right here.
Yes, you are. I couldn't see anybody before. Yes. On this committee, I was talking to Mary before you came. Yeah. And she's assuming that one or two PAC members will be on this committee. On on this committee. Yeah. Yeah. The head. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to be on it? Yeah, I think
No.
I would be probably. Sure, yeah, I'd love to be on it. Or not. Okay, I would like to be on it, but I don't want to. I want to serve you first. Oh, no. Please, okay. And actually, that would be good because in her second one, she has you being a lead on one, and let's change that. Right, like, I'm not sure coordinating written campaigns, I certainly can give that a go. Providing resident updates, I mean, I'm the resident at large member, but you are amazing at dealing with residents. Well, then, maybe that should be me, but I don't know if that could be me.
Everybody recognize everybody that's here,
It could be me. It could be me and you.
I guess.
You know, we could divide and conquer. Right, it's a subcommittee. It just means that if you and I are there, no other PAC board member can even be there. So. Yeah, so we need, okay, anyway, we don't need to do all that. We don't. No, we don't. No, we don't.
Could you look at the ordinance and see if there's anybody that you don't recognize? John, are you ready to ramble here? Yeah. And where'd you send Cal Joy off to? To make sure that everybody hears a resident. Do we close the doors or anything?
Sure.
They can come in the back. Yeah. let them come in the back. Sign out. What's the sign on the board? Unless you got a haircut. There is a project. Finding a seat.
Everybody lives here? Yeah. That's amazing. You know that? Yeah. Long time.
I'm in with both feet. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Board of Directors of the PAC Acquisition Corporation for Marin Valley Mobile Country Club this afternoon, July 6th at 4:30 p.m. We are recording it for our own posterity, and I would like to call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the final agenda.
I move to approve the final agenda with one change. It says fireside room. It's now the clubhouse.
Would you repeat that again?
I move to approve the final agenda with one change. It should say, oh, I said clubhouse. It should say ballroom instead of fireside room.
right?
I'll accept that. So I have approval in a second. Any, okay, any comments? All right, approve the final agenda, 5-0, presumably, 5-0. And I'd like now to call for public comment on any items that are not on the agenda with a 3-minute limit for those comments and throughout the meeting. So please identify yourself and give your address.
Cheryl Rebishang, 107 Sunrise Lane. I had a thought this morning, and if this is the wrong place for it, tell me to save it and I'll sit back down. But it occurred to me this morning that if we're not sold, and we don't know yet, as far as I know, what's going to happen with all of this, but I was thinking there might be a way of changing our park into a housing cooperative that would let us be able to have lower income folks as well as moderate income folks and be able to manage the park basically on our own with some sort of a management company like we have now. And that would put the city basically out of the picture in terms of day-to-day management and dictating what's going to happen. And feeling like they have a need to intervene in every project and keep a separate set of books from what we're able to provide for ourselves with the Helsing Group. So I don't know whether a cooperative is anything that anybody else has interest in, but I just want to mention it as possibly something we'd want to look into here as the days go along. Thank you.
May I respond briefly? All forms of ownership are being explored.
Excellent.
All for.
Would someone else like to speak?
Michelle Rivers, 8 View Ridge Drive. We might want to assign somebody to change the time on the signage because it currently says outside 6 o'clock is the meeting. And for some people, it might be confusing if they don't read the emails.
No, the agenda says 4:30.
Yeah, but the sign saying it's hung outside says Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
Anyone else would like to address the board? Seeing none, let's move on to the consent calendar, which we have none. Reports, we have none. Old business, we have. Consent calendar, we have nothing. Reports, we have none for this meeting. Old business, we have none for this meeting. And now, under new business, the first is the approval and the selection of the hiring of legal counsel. May I have a motion that we can discuss this?
I move to discuss the selection and hiring of legal counsel.
We have a second. Any comment? No comment. I call for a vote. All in favor? Okay, thank you. The selection of a legal counsel is a very important thing. As you know, it's a very complex issue that we may be facing, and we don't really know the extent or the parameters of what that actually entails. So in our review of a number of legal firms, we took into that account looking for a very experienced law firm whom had experience in land use issues, in surplus land issues and ownership issues, and extensive experience in dealing with entities in the government, county, city, and state issues. So we reviewed these matters with the attorneys that we had an opportunity to meet with within the deadline that we set for ourselves. I mean, this we see as a very pressing issue, and we wanted to have legal advice as soon as we possibly could have to advise us in our path going forward. Having legal counsel, having the experienced legal counsel to advise us in what was possible after reviewing the documentation for the whole affair is very important, and essentially not letting the cat out of the bag in the sense that we would not necessarily like our potential adversaries to know too much, either how well prepared we are or what issues that we're planning on attending to. Again, strategically, it's good to keep that kind of information under your hat, waiting for the opportunity to actually present this to a court or present it to whomever it might influence. So taking that into consideration, we elected to go with Hansel and Bridges simply because the extent that they have been involved in these affairs and the depth of their legal expertise. We met with other firms that were very congenial, very helpful, but we couldn't get the impression that they were prepared from day one to go forward. Again, perhaps in one instance, the partner in charge of these affairs wouldn't be available until sometime next week. And it's difficult for us to really get prepared and go forward in that regard. So we, Steve and myself and Mary Curry, spent a lot of time reviewing what our situation was, what we were looking for, and researching law firms that we felt had that expertise and were ready to stand for us. And I would like to ask for board approval based on our recommendations to go with Hansel and Bridges. And I'd just like to pass this on to Steve, who also was involved in these negotiations, if he had any comments.
You got the name wrong.
Hansel Bridges.
Hanson.
Hanson Bridges. Bridget. Like Bridget Bardot. Hanson Bridget.
We need to know this.
The two main firms that we were interested in, Hanson Bridget stood out with a very strong approach to our situation and seemed to have very good energy to jump right into it and get to the issues and challenge the parties that we need to address. So we were impressed with that. The other main firm we were interested in had great experience and great knowledge, but the energy was different and was not as inspiring. And we have to act fast and sharp. And so that's why that was my reason for wanting to go with Hanson Bridget.
May I add?
Just, I'd like to have one more comment, and then I'll pass it on to you. The head litigator that will be working with us is Dana Dean, and she has been practicing real estate and land use laws for over 2 decades and is a very experienced litigator. Yeah, sure. Dana Dean.
D-E-A-N.
D-E-A-N.
Thank you.
So again, as Steve said, she seemed to be very cognizant of what the potential problems we're having experience in those areas. And we had the sense that we could move very quickly forward in the event that we needed to. So with that, I'd like to entertain Carol Joyce. Carol Joyce.
I just wanted to assure everyone that the lead on this, well, Jay and Mary and Steve, but all of them took all of the suggestions, and there were many that people in the park sent to them. Like if someone said to me, I know this attorney who won a case against a city, I would send that to this team that was doing the interviewing. And they took all of that into consideration. So I just wanted everyone to be assured that your friend or someone that you know about, or it was all taken into consideration. There were lots of things like conflict of interest, geographic, maybe someone's in San Diego and we need them to be here, or just so many issues. But I just wanted to let you know that it was all taken into consideration.
John Hanson.
Yes, I would just like to concur with with my fellow board members on the selection of Hanson Bridget. I wasn't in on the selection. It would have been a Brown Act violation for me to be there, so that's fine. I did a lot of work online though to research these groups, and I'm delighted that we're going with this group. I would say that they're a high-profile law firm, and they're up to the task of doing what we need to do. We're going to war with city council. I mean, with city hall, I should say. And you know, the old cliche that you can't beat city hall, we tend to break that. And you know, whether that's going to be our course or not, I don't know. It's up to the lawyers to tell us what it is, but they are certainly up to the task of meeting all of our needs, whichever direction it appears best to, the best way for us to go to meet those needs.
John, is your microphone on? I don't think your microphone's on. Can you hear? Okay.
Yeah.
Just me. Yeah, you could turn it on.
With that, is there any comment from the residents liking to gather?
Let me say one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing from Steve.
Another thing that, hello, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Another thing that impressed me about Dana Dean is she really took over the room when from the first moment we met with her. She started asking the questions right away and qualifying all of us and saying what the limitations were since she wasn't hired yet. And then we got into the topics, and she seemed to be nearly an expert in every topic we brought up. She was well educated and well experienced. So it was, I don't know if moving is the right word, but it was impressive. That's the right word.
I believe Bill Davis is first.
You can form a line if you want to speak.
Bill Davis at 5 Ridge. I've been here for 17, 18 years. Up until this point, I think the city's done a good job in here. We have not cost the city of Novato any money in the past, or have we up until this time? However, there are some serious problems. The oversight is missing. We need to get that back into place. The transparency is quite cloudy. There appears to be two sets of books. Helsinger's got one, Helsing, I think is his name, and the city's got another, and our CPA looks at it and says things don't look balanced. So the numbers aren't proper. And finally, to put the whole thing in a tailspin, the threat of a sale to a for-profit owner is now surfaced. I have a solution. It's one sentence. It's very simple. The city of Novato, and this is what I would like you to put in or ask your attorney to do. The city of Novato cannot sell the MVMCC senior community of 63 acres unless they have 2/3 of a majority of the people to agree to that sale. I suggest that you instruct your new attorney to put that in the proper legalese. And I think I would sleep a lot better. Thank you.
Bill.
What people? The residents?
What's the question?
You said 2/3 of the people, the city council, the city of
No,
Novato,
no,
the
no.
residents.
2/3 of the residents
Ah,
of
In
this
the
community.
For what?
Say,
That they need that.
they cannot put it up for sale and they have 2/3 of us agreeing to that.
But is that in the delegation agreement or where are you getting that from?
Request your new attorney to put that in writing and give it to the city to have them put their rubber stamp on it, sign off on it, and then we can all sleep
That's
better.
our wish.
No, it's our request and demand.
It's our request. Okay. That's my bill. Demand.
So I'd like to speak more specifically to
Michael?
the
Name.
Michael Haggerty, 21 View Ridge. I'm a former member of the PAC board too. So I'd like to talk specifically to the proposal that was here, which is that you guys hire a law firm right now and without telling us much about it. So let me have 3 objections here. The first is that you insist on keeping a lot of this information secret, which means that we have to trust you to approve not only which firm, which I don't care if you choose this Hannett, but not only this firm, but also what strategy you're using. There are some strategies, if you don't want to tell us, I don't want to pay for it. You know, so that's one point. And as part of the giving us information, I'd like to have you distribute to us the vitas or the resumes of the people who you hired to show how positive they are, how good they are, and also to tell us the expected price. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
First of all, thank you so much for
Tina?
Martina Kirkrit, 13 Marine View Drive. Thank you so much for all of you being here and having spent so much of your valuable time of dealing with this. I would be interested to know, as was mentioned before, I want to be taller. So as you said, identify our needs, and that would be given to the attorneys that they know our needs. Would you let us know what our needs are that will be mentioned to the attorneys?
Good afternoon, John Ewing, 7 Fallen Leaf Way. It's, I think, so important, if you don't mind me saying, I just drove up to go home now and there's a meeting here. I sometimes get emails from you, Carol Joy. There was nothing about this meeting. Can you correct me why I didn't get any information?
I'll just say that my email I've been having major issues about getting these out. And so I asked Irma Wheatley, who has the exact same list I do, to send it out. It should have gone to everybody on the list. I heard from another person today too, saying they didn't get it. I'm so sorry.
Well,
It should have
can I
gone
ask
out.
when it went out though?
Yesterday,
Yesterday.
yesterday afternoon.
How many people
Just
here?
before.
Did everybody here get the agenda?
Raise your hand if you got it.
Well, see, everybody here got it.
Oh,
So I had no idea about this meeting
Good.
until I noticed people.
but
on
you're
the
not
list.
the only person, so it's
But
funky.
again, if you don't mind me saying, if I've offered to do the flyers, whatever it takes, but I think every resident in the park should know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Some of them are seniors, they can't get up, whatever. I'll go tell them what's going on, but I think we all need to hear what's going on
Absolutely.
because it becomes a little mysterious.
Right. We're
Okay.
trying to address that. We know that there are people, I'm sorry, may I?
No, you can
respond?
answer.
Because I kind of am sort of
Sure.
in charge of that. There are quite a few people who haven't put their email address in the directory. And so, or have not asked me to put them on the list. So our plan is to somehow get those people in particular, because they're the ones who aren't getting emails. So either go to door to door and get their email address, or maybe they don't have one. Maybe they don't
Right.
have a computer.
But I'm,
And so that's why when we sent out the last agenda, we said, it was the resident letter. In the body of the email, we said, if you have a neighbor who you think might not have received this, please print it and share it
Okay.
with them. And some people told me they were doing that. But at any rate, I know this concern, and we're running in place here, trying to address it as we
Okay.
go along.
and then
Okay.
could I ask from Steve, do we have a number of how many funds came in tonight? How much you've received?
May I respond to that?
I'll address that. in a
Thank you.
moment.
In a moment? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll address it right away. I just want to wait until everyone has a chance to speak, and then
Okay.
I'll try and
Thank
answer
you.
the
I'd
questions
appreciate
being
that.
raised.
And
All right.
talk into the microphone, please.
Okay.
Okay, John.
Want to go or? You go?
Aaron Mortensen, Fallen Leaf Way. I heard what you said about the advantage of discretion and secrecy when planning a strategy. I think that has to be balanced against, as what Mike Haggerty said, the groundswell of support that you need is dependent upon our feeling involved in the whole process. And if you're trying to combat secrecy on the part of the city, don't be guilty yourselves of the same issue. So I think that's legal advice, and it sounds solid legal advice. But legal advice is not the only advice that we have to live with.
My name's Alexis Friedman, 38 Marin Valley Drive. I have a question about the history of PAC. I've heard from some friends, neighbors that are longtime residents, like 25 years, that when PAC was formed, money had been raised by the people who live here, and somehow that became the possession of the city of Novato. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Because I've heard this from more than one or two people. And I'm just curious if you have any
I don't know any
knowledge of it.
information.
Like, wasn't PAC formed specifically so people could try to buy the park?
I'll go over that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little cloudy on the whole history of
Yeah,
how.
I'll
Okay.
address it.
Hello, Juliet McLam, 24 View Ridge Drive. And I just have one question, and I want to know if Dana Dean is a shark. Okay, because we need a shark, like with a dorsal fin, a shark lawyer. Okay, that's what I really want. And no, it's true. You need one of those. We need one of those. And when it comes to secrecy, I've been through a lawsuit, and you need to be secret enough to contain your mode of attack, so to speak, from your adversary. I'm not saying we should be secret among ourselves. We should share, all of the information amongst the people, that are being represented, all of us here. But yeah, we have to attack them in the middle of the night, ruthlessly, when they don't even know what's happening to them. So there we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
I have to say, though, that legally, I am required that because of the delegation agreement, the PAC board is required to let owner, meaning city council, know. So I have to notice them every agenda and all the minutes. Which we're all friends here. This meeting is not Zoomed. And that's why.
John Feld, 11 Clubview Drive. I've got to say that I think I approve of all of you. I trust you, and I want you to do the best you can. And if you need help, call on us. We're all willing to help. But as far as I'm concerned, I trust you to do the right thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Marshall.
Marshall Krause, 99 Panorama Drive. I just want to say that we have to tell our attorney very clearly who his client, her client is. That is, who is going to make the decision. If the attorney says, okay, you could go this way or that way, it's up to you to make a choice. Who is the decider? Is it this board? Is it one person? That should be established. It needn't be established right now, but within the next few days, after we hire an attorney, we should find out who the client is, who can give the attorney the instructions.
I'm Whedon, 122 MVD. In talking strategery, I looked up Dana real quickly, and she kind of seems sharkish by what I could see. But that's a quick look. So I know you guys have looked deeper. There's a short-term and long-term strategery, I think, that you need to consider if you haven't already, and you probably have. I haven't heard. But we need the short-term issue dealt with of a potential sale. But B, we need to be looking at the long-term issue in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years. There may be an entirely different city council that we're dealing with that may or may not be cooperative with us. So we need a long-term plan for how or maybe we can start making the steps for whatever that is long-term, so that we're not in this same position next year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. The other strategic issue is as soon as anybody outside of our organization finds out that we've lawyered up, it will no longer be a secret. And we need a strategic plan to deal with the communication to Novato residents, to the city, to whoever, because it will hit hard, because everybody will know we've lawyered up, and that will take a communication plan in order to deal with that. Otherwise, the vacuum will be taken up by somebody else. Okay, so if you could speak to that plan, that'd be great.
We will.
Inga Grace, 45 Scenic Drive. Well, first, I want to thank you all so much for all the work you're doing on behalf of all of us. We really appreciate it. And I'm thinking about the fundraising. I understand the delicate balance between keeping things low-key, perhaps secret, but at the same time, we want to find a way to inspire and engage the community so that they want to help out with the legal cost, which could be considerate, as I understand. And I don't know exactly how to do that, but I think it's really important that everyone feels included and inspired in the process. Thank you.
I just want to echo what everyone is.
Francina.
I'm sorry. I'm so eager to share my information. I'm Francina Leclerc. Good afternoon, everybody. I live just down the street next to all the construction work at 118 Marin Valley Drive, and I'm still standing. And I know that you're still standing after all you've been through with
regards to this latest issue. My background is in corporate communications. I have a degree from Stanford in communications, and I have served corporations and nonprofits throughout my career, developing marketing communications, crisis communications, merger and acquisition and divestiture communications, as well as fundraising. This has been local and internationally. So I can understand where you are, where we are right now. And I agree with those who feel that being communicated with at this time in particular is extremely important. And I appreciate what Tom said about having a communications plan. I've worked with law firms in corporations in doing just that, addressing all of the details that are involved in keeping people apprised, which chunks down to just how do people communicate with you at this point. If you send out an email or if you send out a robocall, if people in the park have questions, how do they respond? Is it only at these meetings? Are there emails? Are there other forms to keep people involved, engaged, and as you said, motivated? Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Rivers, 8 View Ridge Drive. I'm all for the battle, and I can be a bit of a shark myself, so I understand that idea. However, going forward, we don't know what our relationship with the city is going to be. So let's be cautious about making enemies there, because maybe we can come up with some wonderful plan where it works for everybody. We get what we want, that's number one, but we don't make the city of Novato our enemy. I think that's really essential. And collaboration and a win for everybody is usually always the best approach. But let's go get them too. Okay?
Hi, Sean Casey, 19 Marin View Drive. I like what she said. And the question I have is, has anybody here actually sat down one-on-one with people at the city and without any vitriol or accusations, or tried to talk to them and see if they can give us what's going on? Has anybody tried that? Have you guys talked to anybody? And so before we take this next step of going to the legal mats, which I think may be necessary, I'm just wondering, and like she said, trying to find a way to present to the town some motivation for them to keep us, not sell us. I'd like to hear people talking about ideas to make it in their interest to not let this happen, but without duking it out yet. Right. If it's necessary, go for it. But so with the lawyer, is it already going to be starting with the attorney to start going after them? Or are you just getting advice to start with, just to kind of get an idea of what our options are? Or are you ready to start going to war? I don't know. It just seems like to know that there's anything that if you can exhaust all opportunities to keep the temperature down and find solutions that everybody can be happy with, like what you just said. That's it.
I can address one of Sean's questions. I can address one of Sean's questions. Have we met with the city? 3 of us, including me, met with 3 of the city council members over the last couple of weeks. 1 of them each time. And it was very comfortable settings. Usually it was a coffee shop or here at the clubhouse. And we shared with them our concerns about what we heard about them getting an offer to sell the park. And their response was that they're very concerned about the park and they're worried about the city. And they couldn't promise us that they would vote against the sale. And we didn't get into an argument with them. We just kept sharing with them how wonderful this place was and how great it was that they voted for this 26 years ago. And we usually ended up closing, saying something like, well, we know you have to do what's best for the city, but we hope you will consider what's best for Marin Valley also. And so they couldn't promise that they would help save us, for lack of a better term. Prior to that, I personally spoke with Pat Eklund, and of course, she's a torchbearer for us. She's totally in favor of the park and was going to work on trying to convince the other city council members. I don't know how that went. The fifth member was out of town for the last several weeks, and we didn't get a chance to meet with her.
I would also caution that verbal assurances from city council members mean nothing. And the PAC, our park has experienced that in the past where they say one thing and then vote another way. So verbal assurances mean nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to keep the meeting a little orderly. If you want to speak, please get recognized by the board.
Sorry.
John Hansing.
Okay, yeah, just to enhance what Steve and Carol Joy said, that we have been in constant communication with the city up until about 2 weeks ago. And for years, actually, we have. And as Carol Joy said, you know, they say one thing and do another. That is their MO. We have been communicating. We have been trying to do the best for all causes. And it's been a struggle, quite frankly, just for years, trying to get things done here. So I don't know where and how, what more we could do to try to find a, you know, a common ground or settlement with the city, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop trying. I just want to let you know that we have been trying to do that for years, more directly, more aggressively in the last few months, and very, very aggressively in the last few weeks.
Thank you, John. I'd like to address Tom's concerns about history and background that people have asked. And Dave, would you like to say something? I can see you're standing there.
Sure. I'm happy to wait for you to go first.
Okay. You don't mind standing? Okay. The origins of the PAC go back to 1988, when 10 years before, roughly 10 years before the actual sale, the residents came together and formed the corporation called the PAC Acquisition Corporation, with the hope that affordable housing for the people living here would be able to be maintained. So they made these wishes known to the owner, and in '97, when it was decided by the owners to begin a process of selling it, they approached the park acquisition. That spawned a action that became the city working together with the PAC to purchase the park through a very complicated funding using state funds and the setting up of a finance authority by the city of Novato. All during that time, from 1988 until the present, the PAC Corporation has been very involved in communicating and taking the pulse of the city in terms of how to manage and how to bring this community forward with the idea of having affordable housing for the people here. The PAC, in that regard, has reviewed and helped plan the budgets for this park, which are then approved by the city and before by the governing bodies of the bond agreement. And we have continually met with the city to negotiate with them what our desires were. there was a 2x2 committee representing 2 members of the PAC board and members from the city, lead people from the city, to discuss how we can continue this relationship going forward. That started in the documentation back in 97 and continued forward. There was a time when we were meeting every 2 months. And I've been here approximately 14 years, and I have been on the board of the corporation that was to take ownership should the city release it to the residents after the funding was finished. And I've been on the PAC board since that time. So I've been deeply involved with this, looking into the issues and trying to do the best for the community in this regard. Everyone sitting on this table has been deeply involved, either through family or through relationships developed out of their own expertise. So we are not naive in our approach to what's going on, and we are not naive in taking the pulse of what we feel has been going on for the last 6 months. Now, the need for secrecy has been brought up, and I'll just reiterate it. The idea is that if you need to go forward to protect your interests, it would be very worthwhile to know what the other side is planning to do in order to, if you're playing chess or checkers, if you know what the other person's moves are, it's a lot easier to counteract and neutralize them. So the idea that we're trying to keep our cards, our pieces close to our vest so that we can make the proper decisions in the proper time frame. Now, we're not making these decisions in a vacuum. We are taking very experienced legal counsel and discussing it, what our options are with that counsel, and then bringing it to the PAC board and discussing it in open setting. So you will most likely know pretty much what we know and where we're going. But we need to maintain a certain amount of secrecy for that going forward. And I want you to know that we are all sitting at this table deeply committed to doing the best for this community, and that we would like to earn and deserve your trust. And generally speaking, for the last 10 years, it hasn't been a great issue. A lot of people may not even know the PAC existed because they managed to get through their lives here very well insulated. But the PAC has been working diligently for 25 years to protect your interests. And we believe that being hired by you in a public election, you have given us your trust in order to carry forward. And we appreciate your trust and what you've given us to date. And I'll gather my thoughts. I'll ask Dave to step forward and to give us his comments. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. David Tetta, 16 Scenic Drive. So I have a request now, and as well as a question that I originally had. My request would be, Jay, I think you gave a good general description of events of the past 25 years. Chris Blunk's March 23 report also tried to do that. It would be nice to have a document that could be posted on the Marin Valley website that actually was a thorough chronology of events since 1997. I think that would help people understand what's going on a lot better. So that's my request. My question is, in preparation for the June 27 City Council meeting, there was a group that was self-created, composed of 2 members of PAC, Marval, HOL, and MBEST. That was called, I believe, the Marin Valley Political Action League. And that was the group that sent out a letter a day or so before, maybe probably June 26th. My question is that group still active? Is it now considered a standing committee within the PAC? Has it been sunsetted? Was it just a one-off effort? Can you provide any insight on that? Because people have gotten direction for what to do from 2 different organizations.
Yeah, I'll ask John to address that in a moment, John Hanson. Yeah, I'll ask John to just address it now since you wanted to have a comment. Go ahead.
Okay, MVPAL, the Marin Valley Political Action League, it's a rapid response organization. So we only raise our heads when called upon. And that probably will happen again, maybe many times, don't know at this point. But when we need it, MVPAL will be there to do that. Now, we will not be self-directed on this. We're not stovepiping at all. In fact, the whole idea here is really to get ourselves very organized, much more so than we ever have been. So MVPAL then will take its directions and, for what we do, when we do, and how we do it, directly from PAC, probably with the association with the committee that will be associated directly with the legal counsel, because a lot of what we do is going to be directed by our legal consultant. So if that answers that question, David, we do exist, but it's not something that we're not active all the time. But we will call upon the group when that time comes up. Now, something else I wanted to comment on is what PAC is. PAC, sure, we've mentioned before, you probably heard that that we're a 501c4 mutual benefit corporation. And sure, that sounds good, doesn't it? But really what PAC is the internal governing body for this community. Now, we think of PAC as the group up here, but we're the board of directors of PAC. PAC is everybody, all of the residents in the community. And residency that makes residency an important issue. Okay, so that's why Matt keeps track of exactly who is a resident and who is not. Residents are allowed to vote for the PAC board of directors when the voting comes up. All of the residents are members of PAC. So you're the members, we're all members, and you have elected us as a board of directors, which means that you have put your confidence in this group. Now, that may not have been a big issue in the past, it probably is now, but nevertheless, we still represent your best interest. That is our job, and that's what we do.
May I just add one thing?
Let me step in. Okay, a lot of the issues that have been raised in terms of communication and strategy and so on and so forth. We have another item on the agenda which will be coming up, which is to establish a standing committee for strategic planning, legal liaison, and appointing that chair. We will get into that in the next agenda item, but in general, to answer some of the questions that have been coming up, again, from the idea of secrecy and the idea of planning in advance, we need to get direction at this juncture from legal counsel as to what is possible, and our legal counsel taking into account what we feel to be the issues and what we would like to resolve. They are going to advise us, and then we are then going to parcel this information out through that committee, and in a very open fashion, as far as we can be open without putting all our cards on the table. When you play poker, you don't want to lay your hand on the table to the fellow who is next in line to bet whether he's going to think he's going to beat you or not. So we have to keep our cards a little bit close to our vest for a while. And that is why all information coming out of our conflict, apparently, with the city has got to be formulated by obtaining proper legal counsel and what the possibilities are, planning and action, and then advising all of the residents as best we can, using that committee to raise money to fund our legal efforts and to begin the process of defending our interests. And we're going to talk about that in the next agenda item. But we have, as you hear, have thought about this, and we are going to implement it. We cannot, again, show our cards too early, but we definitely do want to keep the members of the PAC, you, as involved and as knowledgeable as we possibly can. Carol Joy.
Well, I just wanted to say, when I send out communications, people say, oh, the PAC this and the PAC that. And I changed that to, no, the PAC board did this. This is a PAC board meeting. You are members of PAC, but you are here at the board of directors meeting. So when people say PAC this and PAC that, you're PAC, but the PAC board is something else, it says.
Oh, yeah. It's also very possible that some of you here, new residents, haven't seen us actually have an election of PAC board members. You won't be wondering, well, how are you up there? You talk about being elected. Every couple of years, either 3 or 2 of the PAC board members' seats come up for election. Now, if no one new wants to run to be elected for the PAC board, there will not be an election because that's considered a white ballot. The existing 3 members, if they choose to stay on, and there's no one else, not a 4th person who wants to run, then there won't be any election. And the following 2 years later, then the other 2 members face re-election. If they want to stay on and there's no one that wants to run to get on the PAC board, there won't be an election. So it's possible you've lived here 6 or 7 years and have not seen an election, and that's why. Another possibility that what happens is sometimes, let's see, those 2 people are coming up for re-election, one of them wants to resign. So we have an open seat, and we advertise it in the Echo. Nobody wants to run. So then we go throughout the community and try and recruit someone to fill the empty seat on the PAC board. And it's hard to find that person. And when we do, they're like appointed because there's an empty seat and they've agreed to run. Now, other people could step forward at that time also, then we'd have an election. But if nobody does, and we can find one person who's willing to be on the PAC board, then that just happens. Okay, so I'm just trying to make this transparent. And if you forget what I said, come up and ask any of us anytime.
And one other item, I hope I addressed most of the concerns that have come up, but one of the other items is the effort to know how much money we have collected to date for this defense fund. And we have decided not to make that public, again, for the same reason. If you're playing poker and it's an open stake game, if the opposite side can see that you have only $5 left, they can up the ante on you and push you out of the game. So we don't really want our opponent, whoever that may be, to know exactly what we have in our fund for that reason. Our fund is being held in a bank account with the Bank of Marin, and Steve Ploker has created a spreadsheet with everyone's names. I don't know who they are, how much they've donated, but Steve, our treasurer, your elected representative for the Treasury, is keeping a very accurate amount of the amount of money that's coming in. And should we not spend those monies, they will be refunded in proportion to the amount left over. So I want you to know that we take very seriously our responsibility to monitor that fund. But again, we don't want the potential adversaries to us to know exactly what we know and when we know it. Okay. You have something?
Martina Cookred, 13 Marine View Drive. Thank you for asking. I'm coming back to how the PAC board defines perceived needs. And also, I just got that while sitting there, I'm really curious how each member of our community would define not just their own needs, but also their wants. Like a person like myself who does not have children or grandchildren would probably have different wants than those of you who have children and grandchildren. So if we know all the wants of the community, that would be also helpful to define our needs, meaning also long-term. How long-term do we perceive ourselves being a community? Because that would also define our stand on being sold now, being sold in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, as far as one can look into the future with wants. But that is a valid point, I would think.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot one thing. Yeah, I forgot that I do see the city and its representatives on the city council, just like I see you, on one hand as a group within the city, running it, and on the other hand, as individuals doing the best they can with personal interests also and with personal lives. For that reason, I may ask if anyone also thinks of how can we best help the city make the money they need on a grand scale, even if we think it's crazy to assume that we can, but maybe we can, with all the skills we have, just come up with something that would help them. Aside from the needs we have now, not disclosing any of the potential secrets we shouldn't disclose, but still having compassion with what their needs are.
Hi, Dave Teta, 16 Scenic Drive again. Just one more quick comment. I think a few of you gave a good description of kind of what you see it today as the purpose of the PAC. I'm looking at I'm looking at what I see as the most recent bylaws, 2008, and it really talks about the PAC to maintain affordability of the park, the purposes, to buy the park essentially. And it does say to negotiate with the owners and or managers on any issues that affect quality of life. So somewhat consistent, but if what we're doing now becomes a protracted process, you might want to consider amending your bylaws to really reflect what's going on today in terms of what you're trying to accomplish as a corporation.
And one of the questions of legal counsel is, are those bylaws superseded by the delegation agreement?
That is
a question.
That's a good point. And are they consistent? Because they're not exactly consistent
They
with
are
the
not.
delegation agreement.
The bylaws go back to the formation.
That microphone is
Let me see, how's this?
better.
The bylaws go back to 1988, I think, when the corporation was very first formed. We have to stick to those bylaws. If we don't stick to those bylaws, we have to create new bylaws, which need to go to the state attorney general, I think is the state attorney general, to for approval. And it's not a straightforward process. So with that, that's why we've not changed the bylaws. Most likely, we'll find the delegation agreement, the bylaws are consistent, but we'll leave that for really for the lawyer to, to define more immaculately than my dirty hands.
Thank you, John. Michael Haggerty.
Michael Haggerty, 21 View Ridge. Jay, you've said repeatedly that this is like playing poker. I'm a professor at UC Davis who actually teaches business students negotiation, and this is not like playing poker. So we warn business students not to think about win-win negotiations in a poker way. Poker is win-lose. So the other person has to lose, and that's the way lawyers think too. So be careful about lawyers giving you advice, because they will stage a pit bull. This can run up to $100,000, $200,000, right? Yeah, so we're talking a big budget here. So I want to encourage you to think about how can we make it a win-win negotiation. And Martina's suggestion about making it a win for the city as well. The recommendations by, was it Tom and Francesca on public communication? That's going to be hugely important. We want the city to win in the view of the public as well as ourselves. So Jay, so I'm going to oppose you to get on the committee to run this strategy just because of that. And maybe you'll come around. And I want to say I appreciate all of you so much for doing this, but I do want to warn you, and I'd like to talk to you privately later.
Yes.
Bill Davis at 5 View Ridge.
Just one second, Bill. I just need to say that.
John, they can't hear you.
Got it. Yeah, we'd just like to say that, our mandate, if you look at any of our documents, any of them at all, including the delegation agreement, there's no place in there that says that we need to, or even are supposed to, benefit the city or do anything for the city. Everything in our mandate is for this community. That is our number one goal. If there's something in there that happens to work for the city too, well, great. But our mandate is to take care of ourselves, take care of this community.
Thank you, John. And I'd just like to address Michael's pointed comments to me about being a poker player. I mean, my thought on it, and the reason why I brought it up, is simply because in a negotiation, you certainly don't want to pass what your certainly your objectives are going to be very plain, but your method in approaching that are unclear during negotiations. So it's
No back and forth. Sorry.
so I'm sorry I used the analogy that upset you, that it's a little bit like a poker game, but what I wanted to address was the fact that until we actually know the parameters in which we're dealing with, we don't want the other side, whoever that may be, to know too much about how far we're prepared to go. And John's comment about us not needing to benefit the city in a win-win situation, that that may or may not be the case, in the sense that we may need to, in fact, find a win-win situation for the city because of the dire straits that they find themselves in. And we are not at this point strategizing to drive them under the table. Our fear is that we are having the rug or let's not say the rug, but the land of which your homes are on pulled out from underneath you. So that's what we're dealing with in the moment. And we're doing it in a very expeditious fashion because this stuff has only come up since the grand jury report came out, and it became clearly evident that there may be plans underway. And I was sitting in that meeting when the offer was made for someone to buy it, and it just seemed too opportunistic that it hadn't been planned out. And if you thought that maybe the city should have laid their cards on the table, if we had known about this months ago, when now looking back over our communication and dealings with the city, a lot of that is very suspect, that it wasn't sliding down a slippery slope to that grand jury report and the potential purchaser. So it's nice that you want us to play nice with them. I don't think they've been playing nice with us. Bill Davis.
Bill Davis, 5-View Ridge. You know, when you guys do a good job, and it's true of most city councils and most boards, you don't get too many people showing up. But when you got a problem or two, then a lot of people show up. Lately, you've been pretty busy, haven't you? But the point is that you can't play nice in the sandbox anymore. I'm sorry. The legal advice that you're seeking is really critical at this time, because you can hear from all the people's angst here and all the directions that you all talking about going. You've missed a boat on a few things, like where's your oversight over the years to see what's been going on here?
Sorry about that.
What about the transparency? What about the 2 sets of books? These are things you guys were responsible for that you didn't do. And I'm not very happy about it. Okay. But I don't like attorneys any more than you do, because they're very expensive and they can argue black is white, white is black. But there's nothing more important than having an attorney give you the direction of where you need to go at this point. Thank you very much for making that decision. And this is the reason you're here. We elected you to do this. Please do a good job and quit playing nice in the sandbox.
Aaron Mortensen, Fallen Leaf Way. I realize I'm confused about something. If all of our meetings have to be noticed to the owner, how do you get the secrecy? Who are you as an organization that doesn't have to report this to the owner?
A committee of PAC is different from the PAC board. The PAC board has to notice all of our meetings and send all of our minutes to the owner. Committees do not. Committees report back to us. And that's why I hope sometime we get to the second item on our agenda, which is about a committee.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah. So just to clarify, once the committee reports to the PAC board, then it becomes public.
They have to report to us at a public meeting.
If we choose.
Well,
John Feld, 11 Club View. I think we're getting tied down in a little round and roundabout because we're using the wrong words. Secrecy doesn't seem to be the right word, but strategy is. You don't enter any competition, whether it's legal or ice hockey or whatever it is, without a strategy. And you don't tell the people what your strategy is. It's not that it's secret. It's just that you know what you want to do and you know what you want to achieve. And you know the best way to do it. And it doesn't matter if you what you call it, but it is strategy, not secrecy. Thank you.
One second, we have a comment from Steve Pleasure.
We have been very nice to the city Yeah, if you've been paying attention and coming to the city council meetings and coming to the meetings that we've had here, you've heard me ask the city multiple times why they say we have a huge deficit over the last 4 years and why they think we are unsustainable. You know what their response is? Nothing. This is one of the big reasons why we're hiring legal counsel. They can demand a response. They can say, you have to show us your numbers, period. Because they won't show them to us.
Hi, Janet Pagardis, 135 Panorama. And I would just like to say that after all this talk of secrecy and not showing our cards and all of that, I would like to ask, is there a way that you can, while you're consulting the lawyer, is there a way that you can convey to us without a lot of detail, just major points along the way? I mean, that's, you know, I feel like you've done a lot to be transparent and to let us know about what's happening in meetings and all of that. So I'm fine with that. But I would like, going forward, if you could just give us a few, you know, summaries.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, because, thank you.
Thank you.
You
Again,
deserve
my
it.
comment is that you will hear more about that in the next item on the agenda, how we plan, in fact, to do that. What we can timely.
Speak into the mic. Thank you.
So, you want me to speak in the microphone? Oh, okay. Thank you. I keep on forgetting that. In the next agenda item, we are going to talk about how we are going to make best efforts to strategize and to keep, as we can, the community aware of everything that we possibly can under the advice of legal counsel. In other words, you all are familiar with the concept of telephone, where you put out one sentence and you pass it around the room. By the time it comes back, what's it called?
It's a game.
It's a game. You pass it around, that one sentence of 3 words, and it comes back and it's unrecognizable. That's why we want to have this strategic committee who will tailor the exact information that we want to be able to share with you in such a way that it will not be ambiguous and it won't be subject to a rumor mill of passing information around from one party to the next. So that we will talk about in the next agenda item, but we are very cognizant of the need to do that, and we are making our best efforts to make that happen. Seeing no other further comment, can I call for a vote on? We already did. We voted them in. Fantastic.
We're ready for number 2.
Are you planning on going someplace soon?
Sleep.
Okay. All right. The second item of new business is to establish a standing committee for strategic planning and liaison with legal, and to appoint a chair. May I have a motion? John? Yes.
Just a point of process on here is that what PAC needs to do is to appoint the one PAC board member, at least one, up to 2, to the committee, to establish the committee. And then it's up to the PAC board member then to appoint the chair for that committee, which can be done immediately, quite frankly, but it's just a matter of the process. Mhm.
I move to appoint Jay Shelfer to chair the standing committee for strategic planning and legal liaison.
I second that.
John seconded it.
I second that.
Okay, open for discussion among the board. So basically, what this,
Are you gonna call for a vote?
well, I'm not going to call for a vote yet.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, I think we want to have the residents comment
We
and
need public
and
comment.
discuss it among the
Yeah,
board
sorry.
first. It won't take too long. I'm sure we'll get it finished before 9. Okay, this committee is going to be chaired by a member of the PAC board. And since I'm the president and since I've been involved in the selection, I appreciate Carol Joy's suggestion that I chair this, or John's suggestion that I chair this committee.
Jay?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not necessarily the case. You would be the PAC representative on the committee,
yeah.
but not necessarily the chair. Your job would be to form the committee.
Oh,
And-
okay, then I need to restate my motion because my motion was for him to be the chair. Okay.
Yeah.
My motion then is restated. It is to have Jay Shelfer be the PAC board member of the Committee for Strategic Planning and Legal Liaison.
And I'll change my second for that.
Thank you. This committee will be meeting with legal counsel to go over the various items that you've all heard today with regard to
Jay, that's not the case. The committee doesn't meet with legal counsel,
oh,
not at all. Only you and I will be meeting with counsel,
Sometimes.
and sometimes Pat.
Well, it doesn't have to be the whole committee.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I don't want to confuse things a little bit. Mary, since you're involved in this, could you step up forward and be a little bit more clarified for both the
It is Dave Ted. Just one other point of clarification. I thought you all were talking about Jay as the PAC representative forming the committee. So should that be part of your motion?
Forming the committee.
Mary Curry?
Share your thoughts.
I don't know how to talk to the audience and to you guys, so.
That's good.
Okay,
That'll work.
so, all right, hello. The reason that I'm before you talking, my name is Mary Curry. I live at 55 Clubview Drive. I'm standing here before you because I've been working with Steve and with Jay on the selection of the legal counsel. Also, I just want to give you a little background about who I am and why I'm here and why I wanted to form this committee and the purpose of the committee. In brief, my career extended 22 years at the Golden Gate Bridge as the spokesperson and public affairs director and governmental affairs director. So I've worked in many, many avenues of state and municipal government. I also want to point out that back in, I think it was the 80s, I was the board president of an organization called the Western Colorado Congress in Montrose, Colorado. And as president of that organization, I led a community fight to stop a 745 kilovolt power line crossing Western Colorado. We stopped it. So I have a lot of experience in bringing people together to create messages with legal approval to get the job done on the ground. You guys are boots on the ground. We're going to need you with the messaging that comes out of the strategy that the law firm creates for us to go forward with. And so I wanted to come to the PAC and say, let's have this committee so I can be with Jay partaking in the legal counsel meetings, coming away from that only as the messaging person. I'm not going to be there as the person to tell them what to do or not to do. That's the PAC board. The PAC board is the client. I know Malcolm was asking about that earlier. The PAC board is the client. I would be a liaison with the ability to understand what legal wants us to do as a community through our communications. That's solely what I want to do with this committee that they're trying to form. So what I found to be very effective working with legal counsel is that you want to develop your messaging. So let's say the cat is black, and Francine's going to help me with this. The cat is black. Well, then you take that statement and you put it in your fundraising campaign. The cat is big and fat and black, or however you want to do your fundraising campaign. So basically you come up with messages that are approved, and then you can plug them into a city council meeting statement. You can plug them into a editorial piece, an op-ed. You can plug them in wherever we need them as a group. So this committee would be formed to help with developing that messaging, because I certainly couldn't do it all myself. So I would bring information to the committee and say, look, this is what they said we're working on. Let's develop some messaging. And then we'll need the PAL group, John's group, to get the word out there. You know, we'll need the Marvals, we'll need the folks on that committee to say, all right, let's all go to City Hall. But first we need to have a consistent approach with the messaging that we can use in different forums. And I know that fundraising will be a key part of that. So I have some ideas of who could be on the committee. We don't need to get into that right this minute, and how that committee would be doing messaging to the community, responding to the grand jury report. We have to be working on that next week, contacting elected officials, fundraising, as I said, coordinating updates on the financials with the legal counsel. And so, yeah, that's what this committee is about. And I also want to reveal that what the attorney told us was that that there's two buckets that the attorney is going to work on behalf of PAC, who is serving on behalf of us. And that is, the sale is bucket number one, and everything that entails, surplus land act, all the different options that may or may not be on the table. Bucket number two, all the screw ups in the accounting and inaccuracies that have been brought forth by the city of Novato. So there's two buckets. They're working together. They're flowing down the river together. And that's what the attorneys will be delving into on our behalf in those two buckets. With that said, any questions from the
Thank you,
board?
Mary.
I hope that helped.
It did. So to capitulate a little bit, basically, Mary and I will be meeting with the attorney and then bringing back their input to the PAC board and getting direction from the PAC board on how to go forward. Michael Haggerty,
Michael Haggerty, 21 View Ridge. I support the idea of Mary being the chairman of this board. Because Mary leans more toward communication and she has a lot of experience. And Jay, you seem to be more heavy on legal and keeping things secret and making the city an enemy of ours. So anyway, I support Mary.
I would add that Mary, in a previous meeting, maybe everyone here was not there, has said that when she was with the Golden Gate Bridge District, they underwent two civil grand jury reports. And so she dealt with that. So she knows how to do that. And she has said to us that it's not us that responds to the grand jury report. It's the city of Novato. We are going to help the city of Novato respond by saying, here, look, we did all this research. We came up with all these numbers here, doing their job for them, helping them. So I'm saying that in response to the people who are saying, let's not necessarily make them enemies. No, we're not saying that.
Oh, okay. I got a very different impression from Jay.
Francina Leclerc, 118 Marin Valley Drive. Thank you for everybody's input. It's been very enlightening. And there are two forms of communication. Much of what you have been referring to is external communication. The other form is internal communication. Once again, how is that going to take place going forward? Is it two-way communications? If email and robocalls go out to the community, what's the vehicle for each and every one of us to provide questions, feedback, comments, or is it only taking place at these large meetings? So that's a strategy that also needs to be developed. Thank you.
Right. And we're working on that, Francina. We're trying to set up some new software system that is more efficient than what we're doing right now. And certain people would manage it, and we're working on it.
Meg?
It's just Meg Jordan. Where do I live? 29 Marin Valley Drive. That's just what I was going to address, is that there are lots of great Google survey forms. And I think that every time we have a meeting now, we should have a piece of paper up there for every person who says, I didn't find out. Put your email up there. Emails change all the time. Maybe you're on the list, maybe you're not, but have a means of saying, at least I put my email down in this meeting so they know I want to be on these communications. A form of instant, wonderful reply is a Google survey form that can go to folks at home, and you don't have to analyze them. They are analyzed by AI. It's kind of a ChatGPT document, and it does compile things in a really great way. So you would be able to say authoritatively, 67% of respondents want this, 72% want that. And that'll be part of our internal communication update, right? So there's means and methods, and I hope to help Mary, with some of that on her committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the opportunity to the board if anyone else would like to comment.
So we're ready for the vote then, right?
You are?
I'm sorry. So are we ready for the vote then? Oh, okay. Let me restate. Oh, one more. Okay.
I am Masood Shaigan and I live at 120 Marin Valley Drive. People have brought this up before. Mine is a real simple thing. Up until now, there hasn't been a lot of urgency for communication between the board and the residents. But of course, now there is. And I know for myself, I still have not been getting any communications at all. Talked to Irma about a week ago. I don't know how many other people are in that same boat, but it's urgent that for two reasons. One, you want the support, you want people to help if they can, like fundraising or whatever else. But also there's a lot of anxiety amongst people because they've heard something from their next door neighbor or, in the grocery store or read it in the news. And, for the purposes of calming things down in the park and also discretion, not so much secrecy. So people know what to say, how to respond or know what's going on instead of just throwing up their hands and say, oh yeah, I heard they're selling the park. I'm going to be homeless, that kind of feeling. So whatever it takes, whether it takes somebody to just go door to door and get people's current email addresses, or, it's just a simple email address update to get that done. And I'd volunteer to help with that if need be, so that everybody who lives in this park, who's a resident, is notified of the meetings. If it hadn't been for the kindness of my next door neighbor, I would not have known about this meeting or the fundraising or any of that stuff. They printed it and slipped it under my doormat. So anything we can do there, that would be great. And it's not complex. It's just getting a distribution list up to date. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for all your help.
Thank you. All that is
on the list. He's on mine and Irma's.
I'm on your, I think I'm on your
you're
list,
there.
but I don't know for some reason.
I don't know.
all this is in the works. And again, just following up on Steve's comment and my experience, excuse me, Michael Haggerty, if I use an analogy that seems a little inappropriate, but I'll use it anyway. And that is that you put a lobster in a pot of water and the water is cold and you start burning it, you start heating the water, he's cooked before he actually knows what's going on. And basically, we have been observing, for your information, a deterioration of help and understanding and response to our negotiations, not negotiations, our talking with the city collaboratively to achieve the purpose of this being a vibrant place for us to live. And over the last 6 months, that has deteriorated, like being cooked by hot water or cold water turning hot. And that revelation in the last 2 weeks of there being a serious attempt on the part of the city to negotiate and sell us for $30 million when we've paid every cent of their participation and we've paid all the debts associated with this, has sort of raised our gander a little bit. I'm sorry if you don't like the fact that I'm upset about it, but I am. I'm sorry. So therefore, we are making all efforts to, one, get legal counsel involved to advise us what our situation is and how to go forward, and to communicate through this special committee that we are about to vote on, to communicate out everything that we possibly can, not to undermine our position, and to work collaboratively, if we can, with our opponent, presumably the city, and to come to a resolution where we continue to have our homes rather than having our land taken out from underneath us by developers or whomever. There's, again, all the speculation of what could happen. We don't really know, but we want to know, and we want to put our foot down to find out what is going on. And that's what we're doing. I'm sorry for those many people who may not even know the existence of the PAC are suddenly coming to the forefront saying, what's going on? Why are you doing what you're doing? And the case is that we've been on the job for, in many cases, many years, and we want to continue to do our job in the best way that we can. And this is why we are seeking legal counsel, and we are going to keep you informed as best as we can and legally advised to us. I mean, all communications, all our actions are going to be advised by legal counsel. And of course, we may or may not follow that advice, but we are going to take that advice and look for your best interests in going forward.
So I think you get the picture that we never meant to leave the residents behind and proceed to take action. But this has all developed in the last few weeks. There's a group of about 10 or 15 of us that have frantically been emailing from about 7 in the morning to 10 at night every day, trying to get ready for what's happening. The city council is going to meet on Tuesday night to possibly accept the offer on the property. They're putting out an agenda tomorrow, and we needed to be ready to respond to that. We wanted to have our attorney hired by tonight or tomorrow so that that person can file some sort of injunction or something to stop things if we feel that is needed. So that's why we've been proceeding very fast, okay? So I'm sorry, people that had ideas for attorneys, you wanted us to check out your favorite attorney and see if they would. We had to move really fast. We didn't have time to even respond to everybody who forwarded the name of an attorney to us. We just couldn't do it. We can't even return all the emails of people who are asking us questions because we were focused on getting to this point where we have the attorney. Believe me, we've been meeting multiple times a day to get this far. But even so, along the way, we've been discussing ways to communicate to the residents as soon as we get this urgency matter handled. So we have not left you behind. We've just been handling putting out the fires first, okay? And maybe more big fires will start, but we're at least having to get going on this. And then we have ideas for committees and ways of communication. I think it's going to all unfold really nicely, but it seems a little clunky right now because we're all pretty new at working hard and fast like this. And that's why we recruited Mary Curry, because she has a lot of experience doing these things. And she's been a great help and a great leader in the past couple of weeks.
Hey, Mary.
Can you read the motion again one more time?
The motion is to appoint Jay Shelfer to form a committee called the Committee for Strategic Planning and Legal Liaison. And appoint the chair of that committee. Form the committee. Sorry.
That's all, just from the committee. Yeah, just from the committee.
Doing great.
Form the committee, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
May I call for a vote?
No, oh, John seconded?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second,
And we had lots of discussion. Lots.
Yeah, we're done.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Jay, you may kiss the bride.
Sure.
Out of the pot into the fire.
Yeah.
I have a question. John, you seem to be up on the procedure here. Does Jay need to appoint the chair of the committee now?
He didn't have to, but he certainly can. He can do it right now if he wants, then everybody knows it's done.
Do it.
Go ahead, Jay.
All right, I appoint Mary Curry.
Here. By approbation.
And I'd like to move forward and say the determination of the next PAC board meeting will be Tuesday, August 1st at 6 p.m. And I hope to see you all there. Yeah, 1 second, Irma.
I'd like to apologize to anyone who was not contacted. And at the last minute, I had to use a list that was not necessarily I just didn't have time to go through all of the lists. So I sent out what I had at the time. Everything has been very rushed. So if you think you're not on the list, your name, address, telephone number, cell number, and email is not accurate, please let me know. And I'm going to start the new directory right away. So we'll all be up to date. So thank you.
And she saved my bacon the other day because I had issues. And so that's why you got something from Irma, actually twice in the last few days. So thank you, Irma.
Call for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you all for coming.
I would just like the PAC to either recommend or not recommend us all attending this next city council meeting.
We'll let you know.
Thank you.